Farmers Policy Perks are that little extra something you can get when you're a Farmers customer. So to tell you about them, we're adding a little extra something to this ad, smooth saxophone riffs. When you have a Farmers home policy with guaranteed replacement cost, if your home gets destroyed, we'll pay to rebuild it regardless of your limits. Dig it. It's a whole lot of something. Get a quote at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Optional coverage not available in every state. Only available with select Farmers-branded policies. Subject to terms and conditions. Underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. From Egypt to Einstein, CuriosityStream is the place for history and more. Visit curiositystream.com and start streaming now.
Football! I was coaching today. Football Friday. Gotta admit, Teak, the voice is a little shot. We were working the kids out this morning. No school in New Jersey, as you know. Now, we have a big playoff baseball game tomorrow, so Coach B was yelling, doing the drills. So I couldn't quite get the show going the way I wanted to. Hopefully, not a foreshadow of a rough day for Sharp Tierney. I'm sure it's not. Anyway, let's roll. Good Friday, Football Friday, coming in from our Rocket Mortgage studio. Whether you want to buy a home or refinance your current home, Rocket Mortgage can help you get there. For home loan solutions that fit your life, Rocket can. Now, by the way, I don't paint a picture that's not accurate, like I'm screaming at the kids, but when you, especially especially when you do, and this is a drill that's paramount for young baseball players, and it's a 7U team, so yes, we're pretty good, but we're still learning. So the toughest thing is to have the kids in the right spot on the relay plays from the outfield. You know, like guys know where to cover, but then, move left, cut right, short, go out. So it's like I was screaming. I'm also hitting the fungos, so I've got to yell from home plate all the way to the outfield. So the voice is shot, but the spirit and the passion for a good day is not. How you doing, buddy? You good?
Good. Those teaching moments those are the best. Probably even more. They're probably better for you than they are for the kids.
I'm sure.
They're half confused. They're like, "What the heck is he talking about? I got to get in line with what base, and I got to cut it off, and I got to look where when I turn around and throw it."
You're right. Right.
I remember going through that when I was in Little League. I actually kind of loved that just because it was learning. I love to learn, as you know, obviously.
No doubt. Now, you're going to learn a little bit about LSU and Bama tomorrow. That's where Teak is. So I think you're in Birmingham now, but you'll be in Tuscaloosa tomorrow for the game.
That's right. There's nowhere to stay down in Tuscaloosa, so we spend the night in Birmingham the night before, and then Sunday is even worse.
There's nowhere to stay?
Well, I mean, there is, but
sold out.
It's sold out. Like every home game down there in Tuscaloosa is sold out, especially when it's a rival. I'm putting this in quotes, BT, a rivalry game.
Yeah.
But LSU is terrible
Bama
this year.
by 30.
4-4. Exactly. They've already fired their coach, which is an odd situation. Ed Orgeron is still coaching. He's not really doing anything, and they're looking for who's going to be next. So, we're staying in Birmingham tonight. I'll go out with Julian Maha, who's the founder of Culture City, which you always hear me talk about. And the reason that's important is because tomorrow, or at least late tomorrow, I'll drive to Atlanta, where I will sleep for about 4 hours, and I'll get on a plane, and I'll come back to New York and run the 50th running of the New York City Marathon, which I'm looking forward to. Exactly. And I run for Culture City, that's why. And also Team for Kids, which is the New York Road Runners running program for the boroughs of New York, which is great. Gets kids out and active and running outside. All you need is a pair of shoes and some open land.
Yeah, and a creative mind. But I got to tell you, dude, I mean, can you do something with your life? You're such an underachiever. You lay on your behind all day. You do nothing. You support nobody. I mean, that is one hell of a busy weekend, man. You better hope you don't get like an 8 or 9 overtime game like we had last weekend.
Then I'll go right to the airport if that happens, straight from Tuscaloosa to Atlanta. But it'll be fun. You know what it is. You live life only once.
I hear
you,
man.
Make the most of it.
I love it. And that's going to be awesome. So, Santa, you're going to be tracking our boy Tiki as usual on Sunday with the marathon. Very good. Although Santa can't track him personally because he's still banned from Twitter. And wait, did you get the reprieve or no? You're still in jail? Good. All right, so they did
God.
not. They did not bend. They did not bend. We paid them off to make sure the Samter remains banned. We actually slipped a little cash under the table. Old school ways, T. Keep them off social media.
I love it. I love it.
OBJ is officially freed. We'll get to that. The New York Jets simply cannot have anything nice, no matter how little it is. They cannot have anything nice. Sharp Tierney, as I said, week 9 underway. Colts get a win they had to have. We'll get to that a little later. So a little something on the college football playoff system as well. ESPN reports the detailed situation with the Phoenix Suns and their ownership. Possibly another Sterling situation, though I think it would be much more of an investigation because, to my knowledge, there's no phone calls, which is what obviously buried Sterling right away. But these are all, then rightfully so, these are all things that we'll get into. But let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers was talking. He was yapping. He was hanging out with his buddy McAfee, as he usually does. And these are lengthy cuts, but obviously this has been the story of the week. And Aaron Rodgers responded to the vaccine situation.
I realize I'm in the crosshairs of the woke mob right now. So before my final nail gets put in my cancel culture casket, I think I'd like to set the record straight on so many of the blatant lies that are out there about myself right now. And I appreciate the opportunity to tell my side of the story on here. First of all, I didn't lie in the initial press conference. During that time, it was a very, witch hunt that was going on across the league, where everybody in the media was so concerned about who was vaccinated and who wasn't, and what that meant, and who was being selfish, and who would talk about it, and what it meant if they said it's a personal decision. They shouldn't have to disclose their own medical information and whatnot. And at the time, my plan was to say that I've been immunized. It wasn't some sort of ruse or lie. It was the truth. Had there been a follow-up to my statement that I've been immunized, I would have responded, look, I'm not, some sort of anti-vax flat earther. I am somebody who's a critical thinker. You guys know me. I march to the beat of my own drum. I believe strongly in bodily autonomy and the ability to make choices for your body, not to have to acquiesce to some woke culture or crazed, group of individuals who say you have to do something. Health is not a one-size-fits-all for everybody.
Okay, now, very interesting. There's a lot to unpack there. I've said this before on the show. I absolutely I detest cancel culture. I think it's so bad for us because really,
well, it's short-sighted. It's short-sighted.
Well, yeah, it's short-sighted, and it's, by the way, it's not always accurate. And the other thing it really takes away is the ability to exchange ideas. Like if somebody gets deleted, I mean, not literally, but in the social media, and maybe they could get fired for sure. If they get deleted from certain situations, the person that's canceled does not necessarily have the chance, at least in that form, to engage in a sharing of ideas, which often leads to a better resolution than bringing out the pitchforks from either side. Listen, I've said this before. I don't, and neither does Tiki, and neither does this show, but I'm certainly going to just speak for myself on this, Tiki. I don't make this stuff political. I don't look at vaccines. I'm not saying that there's no political element to it. I don't look at vaccines from a political purview. I look at it from a medicinal purview. What is my doctor saying? What are the brilliant scientists saying? And that is who I lean on, all right? So just want to preface with that. And if you listen to the show, I know that you know that's not just us saying that that's what we do. But I'm also, in terms of my day-to-day life, and this will never change, though I am very adaptable. And quite frankly, I have changed how I view certain things over my lifetime. I think every person should if they're in the business of evolving and growing and becoming a better person. But at the end of the day, when it comes to following rules, I am inherently old school. There are rules in place, and if you don't agree with them, you can ignore them or you can circumvent them. But there are repercussions for ignoring the rules put in place by whomever, a university, an NFL, a league in terms of a COVID protocol. So, I'm not fundamentally opposed really with anything that Aaron Rodgers just said there, but I still think that he took a slippery way out by trying to be evasive with something that I view incredibly important, and that's what bothers me about Rodgers.
Yeah, here's the thing, BT. It's almost like he was trying to explain away why he didn't necessarily lie. We talked about this yesterday, but he was very opaque, right? And
obtuse was your word yesterday.
Obtuse, yes, obtuse.
Opaque
I'll use a different one every day.
Yes.
Opaque probably is better, actually.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like
kind of you can see through it, but not really.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, a little fuzzy.
That's right. It was a blurry statement, and
intentionally blurry.
Exactly
Intentionally
right.
blurry.
Intentionally blurry.
Yep.
And he's never going to get canceled. He's too damn good to be canceled by cancel culture over something like this. And I agree with you. It's his choice. But really all he had to say, just like every other player who refused to acknowledge whether or not they had the COVID vaccine, was, I'm just not going to disclose my vaccination status. It's none of your business, right? And HIPAA protects me from that. And you can't keep asking me. I'm telling you to stop asking me. Don't ask me. And guess what? Nobody would have asked him ever again. The only reason that this is frustrating is because he gets exposed not because someone leaked it that he didn't have a vaccination, but because he got COVID. And the other thing that we needed to find out was whether or not he was tested, which he was consistently. So just like I intimated yesterday, I have no problem with Aaron Rodgers. I have no problem with his decision not to get the vaccination. The only thing that I have a problem with Aaron Rodgers, and it has nothing to do with football, has nothing to do with his status in the locker room or standing with the team. It's just he's trying to talk his way into us understanding his way of thinking. Where the only way that you can get us to do that is just to be open and honest. And why he chose to take whatever alternative treatment he was taking, that's up to him. I know he mentions Joe Rogan and, like he's the authority on this with his hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers.
Millions.
I mean, millions of followers. And that's what influenced him to go down this route. But just don't lie about it, because when you lie about it, you make it worse. Because lots of guys get COVID, and they get it for varying reasons. Some because they have a breakthrough case, some because you have false positives, like we've seen extensively with the New York Giants for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that.
Saquon had a false positive. Saquon
That's
Barkley.
right. I think it was like 13 we heard yesterday in Axe Update. It's crazy.
Yep.
And some of them because they're not vaccinated.
Yeah.
And when they're not vaccinated and you get COVID, there's a repercussion. As you mentioned, BT, there are rules. There's consequences for these things. So to try to talk his way around that, it's frustrating. It's like, just say I messed up.
It's
I got COVID.
annoying. It's annoying.
That's right.
That annoys me. Like, I've said a few times on the show, my high school experience was very rigid. I went to an all-boys private Jesuit high school in Manhattan, right? And I did not want to go there. My dad said, if you're lucky enough to get in, you're going there, because he thought I needed it, plus it's a great school. Now, once you get in, and miraculously I actually did, and probably more miraculously, I was able to stay there for 4 years, Tiki. But once you actually show up on day one, right? What you're saying is, you know what? I am consenting. My hair cannot touch my collar. If you have an earring, which I did, you cannot wear it to school. You cannot wear a hat to school. You have to wear a shirt and tie to school. You had to wear these stupid penny loafers that I hated wearing on the subways going through tough neighborhoods because, things happen.
They were penny loafers. Loafers.
And you know what? Sadly, like my freshman year, I actually had pennies in them. I swear to God, like that was that kind of the look. And like I didn't want to do any of those things. None of them. But you know what? To go to that school, I did them. I adhered to the rules. And, some of my buddies that didn't, they got booted. They went to, schools that weren't quite as good when they got kicked out. There's rules everywhere along the way, every single checkpoint, starting with mom and dad or grandma or grandpa, aunt, uncle, big brother, big sister, whatever it is. Hey, put your napkin on your lap, finish up your meal, drink your milk, time to go to bed. Like, we are a society of rules. And I understand that some rules are ridiculous, some rules are antiquated, some rules need to be completely ignored and flipped. I get it, but this is the rule of the NFL, and this guy tried to take us on a wild ride, first with being slippery and now trying to explain the situation. You didn't follow the rules, dude. That's all that matters.
And he did actually talk about this to an extent, and we'll interpret it after we hear it.
The organization knew exactly what my status was. My teammates knew exactly what my status was. There was nothing that was hidden. During the time of preseason was during the time of the appeal. I thought actually at various times I was going to win the appeal. And I think that people said I didn't wear a mask during the preseason. But I think some of the rules to me are not based in science at all. They're based purely in trying to out and shame people. Like needing to wear a mask at a podium when every person in the room is vaccinated and wearing a mask makes no sense to me. If you got vaccinated to protect yourself from a virus that I don't have as an unvaccinated individual, then why are you worried about anything that I can give you? I have followed every single protocol to a T, minus that one I just mentioned, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But my daily routine is the routine of an unvaccinated person.
Okay, now, but real quick, though, did he follow the protocol when he hugged Kyler Murray and was inches from his mouth and nose? The answer is no, because I saw the video.
You're right.
So,
and that's
again.
that's what the NFL has got to investigate or at least look at. And who knows, probably hand down some nominal fine that's going to mean nothing to Aaron Rodgers, given, how much money he makes on a yearly basis. But at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers should know better that, I don't think I have COVID, but he doesn't know if he had COVID. You know what I mean? At any of those times. We know that he has it now. Started feeling bad on Monday, I think it was. And then Tuesday felt worse. And then Wednesday he was fine. And then now he's feeling better on Thursday and Friday. Obviously, he's still got to sit out for 10 days. But the thing with the COVID virus is you just never know when you have it, because so many people are asymptomatic.
Yes.
And even those that have breakthrough cases who are vaccinated can still pass it. He actually said that. He's like, I probably got this from a vaccinated player, which is likely true, especially with the close proximity. He doesn't know that.
He has no idea.
But it's close proximity with everybody. Anything could happen. But that's exactly why he shouldn't be not wearing a mask if he's talking to his teammates or to guys on the other team.
Correct. And listen, can I get behind the thought, his what he just said of, in my non-professional mind, is it paramount to wear a mask in a room when people are 20 feet away from me? In my mind, probably not.
Yeah.
But that's not the rule. The rule is you got to wear the mask if you're not vaccinated. So, this is eventually going to go away, but it's just, a little more evidence that Aaron Rodgers, and I respect, unique thinkers, critical thinkers, and he is, and I believe that he's a smart guy. I do believe he is in the pursuit of answers. I love that about people, but you know what? You're not smarter than doctors, bro. No matter how smart you think you are, you're not smarter than doctors. No matter what they injected you with. Okay, some concoction that luckily didn't kill you. Whatever they pumped in, whether it's digested with a pill or serum, I don't know. Whatever they did, I do know that it's not as effective as what the government has given us. The three options. That I know.
The FDA.
Nor is it recognized by the NFL.
Yeah,
so
exactly right. Exactly right. I think it was ivermectin, which has an interesting history, BT.
Yep.
As a horse dewormer.
I did some reading. I know. I hear you.
It's like, I don't even want to get into it.
I hear you.
By the way, you talk about following rules and going to Catholic school.
Yep.
What would have happened if you hadn't?
If I hadn't gone to a Catholic school?
Yes.
You want the honest answer?
Yes.
You wouldn't even know who I am because I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
I think that's exactly
the
right.
God's honest truth. Not that I'd be in jail. I don't mean that.
No.
I would not be in this studio because I would not have been put on an academic path and probably a little bit more of a disciplinarian path and just an awareness path that I needed. And I don't want to misread because I'm not. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to make it seem like I was bordering on criminality. No. I needed plain English. Your partner needed a kick in the ass.
Yeah,
that's what your partner needed. And Xavier provided it. So you wouldn't even know who I am. You wouldn't know who I am.
I'm glad that you went to Xavier and your father did the right thing and forced you to go.
And you know what? And more importantly, so am I. And I went kicking and screaming. Best thing for me. Coming up next, Odell Beckham Jr. He gone. He out. He's gone. Where is he going? Hey, listen, you're hearing a little traction. The team that I identified yesterday that Tiki eventually came and met me on, that makes some sense. That could be the destination. We'll reset that. And ultimately, what went wrong in Cleveland and who is most culpable? The organization, Baker, or is it the player himself? That's next. Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
Farmers Policy Perks are that little extra something you can get when you're a Farmers customer. So to tell you about them, we're adding a little extra something to this ad. A backup singer.
Ooh, singer.
When you have the Farmers Signal app with Crash Assist.
Crash Assist.
If you have an auto accident.
We can send help if you want it.
Wow, that sounds like a whole lot of something. Get a quote at farmers.com.
We are farmers. farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available with select farmers branded policies subject to terms and conditions underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate.
Hey, nice party.
Yeah? What's new with you?
Did you know blue whales in Hawaii can be heard off the coast of California?
What?
And time travel to the future may actually be possible.
How is
I
that?
discovered it on CuriosityStream.
I'm listening.
You can stream thousands of shows on nature, history, science, and so much more.
Cool.
And their annual plans are 25% off, just $1.25 a month.
Now I want to go back in time. Sign up for that deal.
Sign up now at CuriosityStream.com.
CuriosityStream.com.
That's it, CuriosityStream.com.
Up to 30% of U.S. military members and veterans are battling PTSD, even those who weren't injured or in combat. If you're one of the many, you should know that you don't have to suffer. Treatment for PTSD is available. If you suffer from PTSD-related depression and anxiety, you're not alone. There are so many veterans and current enlisted just like you. You don't have to suffer. Find the help and resources you need and deserve at connectingvets.com.
All right, taking it here to CBS Sports Radio, CBS Sports Network. Tomorrow, coming up on CBS, little college football doubleheader, noon Eastern, early start, 9 a.m. Pacific. Two armed forces meet. The Commanders Classic. Army taking on Air Force. Army dogs. Black Knights of the Hudson Valley usually reward you when they're underdogs. They usually hang around if you want to play that. Then at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, State Farm College Football Today catches you up on all the day's action leading up to game number 2, and it features another exciting SEC matchup. It's a college football doubleheader tomorrow on CBS. And speaking of the SEC, my man Teak is out in Birmingham right now, eventually Tuscaloosa, LSU, Bama tomorrow, which will be all sorts of fun. Obviously, week not underway. The Jets and the Colts last night, we'll hit that. Taylor was great. That Colts offense looked terrific.
Yeah, man.
And more Jets woes. We'll get to that coming up next hour.
Yeah, unfortunately for you, BT.
Save
it. Wasn't, as I said yesterday, if it wasn't for bad luck, you have no luck at all.
Yeah, save it. I can't even get into it here, dude. By the way, we had an awesome debate yesterday. The whole Bleacher Report put this thing out. Prime Durant versus Prime Bird. And you guys want to go check this out, just go to Odyssey or it wouldn't be up on YouTube, Mike, because we weren't on TV yesterday. So where can people find that? Where's the best way to find that? Just want to make sure we direct them to the right spot.
Odyssey.com is the best place to go, or the radio.com app.
Okay, so
the Odyssey.com app.
Okay, pardon me. So all the shows are libraried there, if you will. If you want to go find that, I believe that was hour 2, 4 Eastern, we got into that. And we put a poll up, and a little surprised because these things usually skew younger. You know, I was all Prime Bird. Tiki was making a case for Prime Durant. So far, 76% of you say Prime Bird, which surprises me, given the fact that
too. It started there and stuck there for a day.
No fluctuations.
I mean, all you got to do is go back and read the stories. The problem is those stories haven't been written yet for KD. I don't know if they're not going to be the same. Obviously,
not even close.
Not even close because the lore is just different.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean.
Yes. The as I said yesterday, I think the heart is different. That's what separates Larry Bird from Durant for me.
Yeah,
the heart. I mean, the story. You know what I mean? Like, think about this.
Forget skill. Like if you just said skill, Durant wins that one.
Oh, right? More skill, Kevin Durant.
A superior athlete.
Yes,
and he does things that no other 7-footer can or maybe ever will do. But it's different than that. It's about how you win and what you do and how you, as you said, steal people's soul.
Yeah, that was. I mean, by the way, everybody in the NBA was more athletically gifted than Bird.
Yeah,
you know, and the story that I gave, but go check it out. I want to get too far off track. But if you missed this yesterday, the story that I gave about Bird, one of the thousands of stories. But he goes in, he meets the media. They're playing the Blazers. He says, and Blazers weren't very good this year. I think it was 80, somewhere in the early 80s-ish, I think. And whatever it wasn't a vintage Blazers team. It wasn't like the team that Jordan, did the shoulder shrug against Cliff Robinson. It wasn't that squad. It was another team that was whatever. And Bird says, you know what, guys, tonight I'm shooting primarily with my left hand. Everyone's like, well, why? He's like, because I got to save my right for the Lakers because we're playing the Lakers soon. And he basically said, these teams can't hold my jock, so I'm just going to mess around and have a little fun. And he scored 23 points with his left hand. There's video to back it up. I watched it again. And not only did he have 14 rebounds and 11 assists, of 47 points, 23 with his left hand, he hit the game-tying shot at the buzzer, and he hit the game-winning shot in overtime. That's Larry Bird. Kevin Durant, on the other hand, again, magnificent player. He ran away from Oklahoma City, and he ran to a team that he couldn't beat. A little different, but I'm also older and not everybody sees it that way. Whatever. All right, so OBJ, he gone. I want to play this. This is very interesting. So Myles Garrett, and you always wonder, Tiki, when situations like this occur, and to my knowledge, I don't, unless I'm just missing somebody, did you ever have a star player, or at least a star talent, on the Giants play himself off the Giants?
No,
mid-season?
Not that I can think of, and certainly not. Even because back then, during my day, and it feels like I'm talking, years ago. It was only 15 years ago, 16 years ago. If you were in this sense playing yourself out of a starting position, it wouldn't happen until, I don't know, 3 weeks, maybe a month after the season ended. They would get rid of you and you'd go someplace else. But in today's NFL, if you're not content and it's clearly not working, they'll cut you like right now. And it's crazy. I mean, what they're talking about, obviously, is the offset language, which we often refer to in rookie quarterbacks.
Yes.
Because the Cleveland Browns don't want to be on the hook for paying OBJ's contract if he clears waivers, and then we talked about this yesterday, and goes someplace else.
I don't blame him, by the way.
I agree
it's
with you,
$8 million
because why pay him to play for somebody else?
Absolutely.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And there's a good chance he is going to clear waivers, unless a team like, say, the Giants just brings him back just so they can mess with him, which has happened before. I think Marty Schottenheimer did that once with Deion Sanders. So there's situations that are happening in Cleveland with Odell that it's just odd. And what's really odd, and I know you're gonna get to this, is how the leaders, like the Myles Garrett, the Baker Mayfields, the Jarvis Landrys, they kind of weren't even aware that this was going on. That's what was most surprising to me.
For sure. The timeline, we all know why is Beckham quiet, week 2 when he came back healthy? Why is Beckham not really getting the rock? And then people started probing a little bit more deeply. Maybe he was open there, but then he dropped that pass. Well, he was open and he missed him, but there's a drop. So we had kind of both sides here. Offensively, became very stagnant. There was an obvious malaise with the Browns offense. The left shoulder injury for Baker clearly did not help. And then, of course, Beckham's pops chimed in with the video cut up there. And unless he's a professional editor, I'm sure that OBJ's camp helped splice that thing together. Beckham did nothing to, hey, that's my pops, and kind of soften it. So you'd wonder, is there real blossoming acrimony here between the quarterback and the receiver when they hook up inside the locker room, which they never did because the Browns sent them home. But in Baker's credit, he said, hey, listen, I can make this work, for the betterment of the team, for a lack of, I'm not quoting him, but I can get past this. I can move past this year, but he won't have to because he's gone. And to your point, it kind of crept up out of nowhere. There was not a real understanding necessarily that there was this division, something that Myles Garrett spoke about. And this is interesting. Go ahead, guys.
I mean, it was quicker than anyone expected. And I wish, we got a little bit more communication between upper management and the players, a little bit more knowledge of what was going on, because it seemed just happened overnight. When things just kind of snowballed, and wish we would have just known. That's the tough part. I feel like that happens a lot in the league where things are just happening to players instead of them. We have to react instead of having some communication from the top down.
See, that's interesting because we all thought that the Browns were, past the clown sideshow circus and, this organization that was fragmented in, 4 or 5 different directions, many times fractured. Garrett's the star of the team. He's the leader of the defense for sure. He is the alpha, I would imagine, in the entire building. When you hear him say that, is that grave reason for concern, or how do you interpret those words?
No, it's not grave reason for concern, BT, but maybe it explains why this team has underperformed a little bit this year. I think you remember the expectations that we all talked about them coming into this year after their epic last season where they get the postseason, they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then all of a sudden this year it just feels like there's something missing, right? There's an extra... I don't know, an extra motivate. Not even motivation is the wrong word, but there's something missing in their performances. And
they're not
it's
scoring
easy
points,
to just,
and they're not stopping people as much as they did a year ago. That's
right, but the talent's the same, right?
Yes.
And honestly, with Odell Beckham back, it should be theoretically, or at least on paper, better.
But to be fair, Landry missed a lot of time, and he's the best receiver.
That's a great point. He was hurt immediately.
Yep.
That's a very good point. And they were relying upon an injured Odell who missed the first couple of games, and then essentially the tight ends in their run game. And they actually kind of did it with smoke and mirrors in their run game.
Correct.
Even when their running back got hurt with Dearness Johnson, who we had on a couple weeks ago. You should check that interview out because he was awesome.
He was a great kid. Yeah, it was
and
a
his
good story
is amazing.
Yep.
But maybe it does tell us that there is a tiny bit of a disconnect. I'm not going to say it's a big disconnect, but a tiny disconnect between Stefanski and his staff and the communication to the players. Because something like this, Myles Garrett should have been aware of it, right? Jarvis Landry or Baker Mayfield, they should all have been aware of it. But it felt like this thing was festering with Odell, with the front office, and no one knew about it. So when this, comes out of nowhere after the game last weekend, it just blows up so quickly. It was just I don't know if I've ever seen that, right? Where it just in a week, at least in our minds, it happened really quickly. But I think we've subsequently learned, and I heard this from Stephen A. this morning, BT, that Odell actually asked for a trade this offseason, which I wasn't aware of. And if he did, they kept it really quiet because very rarely do these things like that stay quiet. But apparently he's wanted out for a long time, but nobody else knew. In fact, in that locker room, they say they love Odell Beckham Jr.
As his former Giant teammate said the same thing.
That's exactly right.
The perception of Odell outside of the building, to be fair to Beckham, and I haven't been a huge fan always, as you know that as my partner, the shenanigans with the Giants early on, whatever. The perception outside of the walls of whatever building he's in is a lot different than the perception in the building, which really is all that matters.
That's right. I mean, he's so it's conflicting, right? It's like, what do we want to believe?
Yep.
Like, do we want to believe what we're experiencing from a consumer standpoint, or do we want to believe what these guys in this locker room, who actually are boys with him and teammates with him, what they're saying? I mean, it's obviously the latter, right? That's what matters most. But I think the common denominator with the divorce from the Giants and now this very soon to happen divorce from the Cleveland Browns is Odell's dissatisfaction with a non-elite quarterback, right? Eli was good, especially in his time. He's probably just average with Odell.
Definitely.
Right? And then Baker, who has potential to be great, he's kind of just average with Odell. And Odell seemingly needs an elite quarterback to thrive or at least be happy. And so it seems like there's always a disconnect if he's got to work in his mind with inferior talent.
Well, I would imagine it's a two-way street. I would imagine that Baker Mayfield probably feels that Odell Beckham Jr. is not quite the same talent he was with the Giants.
I would agree.
A bit inferior to what Beckham once was as well. Goes both ways.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
All right. Go ahead, Teak. I'm sorry. Go ahead, bud.
No, I was going to say, you see
break,
it. Yeah. When you watch, you see it. He's not the same dynamic player that he used to be. He doesn't make those crazy, ridiculous athletic plays that he used to. He's trying, but it's just not the same. So it is a two-way street for sure.
I say Raiders. We'll see what happens, but he is now basically on the street. All right, coming up next here, we'll get to inbounds, out of bounds, after Rack's update on the menu. So an all-time Niner says, hey, they took the wrong quarterback at number 3. We'll hit that after ACK. Right now, here's Rich.
With Farmers, you could get savings just for becoming a customer. It's a little extra something. So to tell you about it, we're adding a little extra something to this ad. Precious baby giggles. When you switch to Farmers, you could save an average of $437 on your home insurance. And that's a whole lot of something, baby. Aw, get a quote at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Based on average nationwide annual savings survey data July 2020 to 21, underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate. Products not available in every state.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. From Egypt to Einstein, CuriosityStream is the place for history and more. Visit CuriosityStream.com and start streaming now.
I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracy, and we're the hosts of Band of Mothers podcasts. We're a little Wait, Don't Tell Me meets This American Life meets Thelma and Louise.
I can't wait to drive off a cliff with you.
You've been saying that since the 8th grade.
Each week, we feature real stories from moms just like you. Plus, we've got live performances, in-studio interviews, games, original music, and more.
So join our Band of Mothers and subscribe now on the Odyssey app or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
It's the Band of Mothers podcast.
All right, Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio, CBS Sports Network. We back. Inbounds, out of bounds coming up in a moment. Convinced the Jets are just not allowed to have anything nice, even if it's something that's probably going to go back on the discount rack. You can't even have it nice for a couple of hours. Oh, God almighty. Time to ask the pros. First, OT, give you a chance to ask us anything you want, brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tweet us your questions at CBS Sports Radio. That's at CBS Sports Radio, hashtag Ask the Pros. And make sure you stick around, listen later on. Teak and I will go through them along with Samter and Stu Getz, take the best one, debate it, kick it around on the air, and give you some props right before we end, shortly before 6 Eastern. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts. All your car care needs, guaranteed low prices, excellent customer service at O'Reilly Auto Parts. All right, next hour, the game of last night, Colts of the Jets. These college football playoff expansion talks, it's just a myth. I mean, hey, guess what's coming up this week? Canceled. Guess what's coming up? Postponed. I don't know, but we got to dig into that a little bit. Also, we'll dig into the culture with the Phoenix Suns. That's a big story this week with ownership with Sarver. So we'll get to that. Right now, we get to inbounds, out of bounds. Steve, you ready to hit it?
I am. Let's do it.
Stu Getz, come on, bub.
Anything can happen in sports and often does. What's right, what's wrong, and who's just crazy? We decide. Inbounds and out of bounds now. With Tiki and Tierney.
Number one, the Niners, as we all recall, Teak, moved up in the draft, and they took Trey Lance, third overall, even though some rumors had them connected to Mac Jones. We talked about that. That was some really good pre-draft conversation. That was a good topic on the show here.
Yeah.
Thus far, Jones has been the clear best rookie quarterback, not even close. And team legend Joe Montana told ESPN's College Football Live that his former team selected the wrong guy.
If I was the 49ers, I would have taken the kid from Alabama. Nothing against the guy that they took. It's just that more pro-style offense, more used to being in pressure situations than that. And I don't know. We'll see what happens in San Francisco, but nothing against Trey. But it's one of those things that here's a guy that's got a great team behind him, and they're always fun to watch.
All right. So, Tick, it does hurt a team when a former legend calls them out for decision that they made, obviously, that plays out pretty publicly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm going to say out of bounds of this, BT, because I think that ultimately only thing that matters is what's happening in that locker room and the interactions between those guys and the coaching staff. Now, it may serve as a not a wake up call, but as a point of enlightenment when things like that are said. But you still have to overcome it. And I think what Joe Montana is talking about is that there clearly is doubt in what Jimmy Garoppolo brings in the present and going forward. And they have a team that was ready to win. And so when you looked at this draft, they're really, and I said this the entire time, BT, the only quarterback that was really ready to start right away was Mac Jones because of playing in the SEC at Alabama, the throws and the pressure that he had to play in. And if you were looking to replace Jimmy Garoppolo right now, which that's a debate. Were you going to replace him now or are you going to wait to replace him? In retrospect, and like looking at it in real time, now you're probably saying we could probably replace him right now. And that's why I think he went that way. But I don't think it hurts the team internally.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, as I've said many times, I mean, nobody was ahead of this more than you. I mean, my partner absolutely crushed this from minute one. He's doing an Alabama game this week, and he's out there right now in the States. So he has seen Mac Jones play in person with his own eyes many times, and he came back after early game. I'll be honest, I first looked at Mac Jones, I'm like, this guy looks like a 6th-round pick. He's going to be on Wall Street. And so I did not think. I mean,
he still looks like he's going to be on Wall Street.
That's true. I'm talking about early Mac. Then I'm like, okay, he's a little bit better than I thought, but no way did I think he'd be this good as a rookie. My partner did. My answer is out of bounds. Couple things. Number one, I would like to know what Joe Montana's opinion was before the draft, okay? Because anybody can sit here and say, well, I mean, Mac Jones' stats are this, and, obviously, I mean, you don't have to be Joe Montana to know who's playing better football. It's the kid in New England versus the kid in San Francisco who's not really even playing. And we all love Joe. Joe is a class act. But let me just tell you, Joe is not one of these former players. Having interviewed him when I lived in San Francisco, he is not a former player who is locked into the day-to-day minutia of any team, including the Niners. He's not like he's a little detached from the game. I don't want to say I would take it with a grain of salt. He's Joe Montana. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think it would be more impactful if Joe Montana or Jerry Rice said, you know what? Ownership needs to sell. The head coach needs to be fired. You know what I mean? Like, to me, this almost means nothing. So I'm going to say out of bounds.
Are you in or are you out?
The Atlanta Hawks made a surprise run to the Eastern Conference Finals despite finishing 5th in the East. However, the team is off to a rough start. They're below 500 here, Teak. They're 4-5, and superstar Trae Young gave a troubling response to the motivation of the team early in the season.
With it being so early in the season, do you find that it is difficult to sacrifice as much as you would in like the Eastern Conference Finals, for example?
Yeah, and I think we're guys are learning that we're no longer the hunters anymore, and at the same time, it's regular season. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot more boring than the playoffs. So you gotta find a way to find that motivation and go out and play every night like it's the playoffs.
I mean, this is what drives me about it. The motivation is you're a professional, dude.
Yes,
that's
you're right.
the motivation. I mean, Trae Young is a hell of a player, not playing well, but and he will once he gets used to the change of the rules and all that stuff. But I mean, that's a joke right there. I'll get to the question in a moment, but just my own, I got to editorialize for it. That is an absolute joke for a 23-year-old kid to be that candid. I guess I appreciate the honesty, but dude, you're 9 games into the season, you're getting paid a ransom to play hard. All right, you didn't even win the championship a year ago. It's hard to get motivated. Get a grip, dude. You're 23 years old. That is problematic. Older fans hear that, they're like, what is this guy kidding me? Anyway, the Hawks' deep playoff run and high expectations eventually and actually will set the team back more than help them. Set them back more than help them. Their run last year.
Yeah, I'm going to say out of bounds of that. I think in time, these guys will start playing better and really more consistently. All right, we thought John Collins was going to explode this year. He had a couple of really good games early on, and now he's kind of settled into kind of being average. You know what I mean? And Cam Reddish might be on the trade block, and DeAndre Hunter is good. Obviously, these are the sub pieces to Trae Young, but there's no one really lifting to the level that they need in the NBA to be consistently successful. That's kind of like 2 superstars, right? 2 guys who can give you 25 to 30 points on any given night. They don't really have that. So I think it's 2 things. I think it's one, it's Trae Young not being as effective as he was a year ago. Some of it because of the change of rules, and now, as he mentioned, them being hunted as opposed to being the hunters. But it's also they're like that second star is still trying to emerge. And I don't think it's because of their postseason run last year. I think it's just because they kind of exceeded what their ceiling was last year, and now they're coming back to reality.
I think that they're so deep that they're one of the, when they're clicking and when everybody's balling out and playing well and focused, I think they're one of the few teams that doesn't necessarily need a grade A number 2 superstar to really go far again. Like, I don't think that was an anomaly a year ago. I don't like what I'm seeing so far, but remember, I don't think you mentioned Clint Capella. He's obviously really good. Bogdanovich can stroke it. I mean, everywhere you look, they're good. So I think this is obviously out of bounds for me because while in the short term it might seem a little problematic or they're not clicking, but once they get back to that situation, and they probably will if they get their act together, that will fortify their future with that experience from the past there. Out of bounds.
Are you in or are you out?
All right, this week the NCAA rejected an appeal by Oklahoma State basketball program and it issued a postseason ban after the 2017 FBI probe found a former associate coach accepting money to steer players to certain agents. We remember that. However, many found the punishment excessive since that coach has already been punished, and the NCAA just found one minor infraction that fell under lack of institutional control. On Wednesday, their AD ripped the NCAA.
I am profoundly disappointed, dismayed, and disgusted by the NCAA's decision to use this flawed and inconsistent process to take away the opportunity for postseason in the NCAA tournament from student athletes that had nothing whatsoever to do with this case. Proves to me that the national office has chosen to weaponize the NCAA tournament. I have a deep and fundamental disagreement with the NCAA using the tournament in this way, and is further proof that the NCAA system is disconnected and broken.
Okay, that's one approach. And then head coach Mike Boynton gave his own, who we've had on the show before, we love Mike, his own emotional response.
There was a single NCAA violation. One player received $300. One player, not a recruit, not a future recruit, not a family member, one current player received $300. And in and of itself, because it was self-reported by us, it's a secondary violation.
Yep.
So the punishment is you pay the money back, you serve your suspension, which the kid did, and you move on.
Yep.
And that's shameful. And there's no wonder that nobody trusts them.
Yeah, I mean, in or out, we do believe the postseason ban was excessive considering the situation.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. We had Coach Boynton on early. He is a great man and a great teacher, and he said that exactly right, in case you missed it. A player currently on the team, not recruiting, got paid $300, BT. He paid it back and served a suspension.
I know.
That's the only issue. It's ridiculous.
I'm totally with you. By the way, even if it was $3,000, I might even be tempted to say even if it was $30,000. I mean, you do self-report it, you pay it back. The one kid was penalized. That's a joke. The NCAA has no more teeth. They try to flex when they shouldn't. Get lost, NCAA.
Farmers Policy Perks are that little extra something you can get when you're a Farmers customer. So to tell you about them, we're adding a little extra something to this ad. Another me. And when you have multiple Farmers policies, you could save up to 45% on your auto insurance with the Auto Multi-Policy Discount. What's going on with our voice? I thought I'd add some drama. Well, isn't that something? Get a quote at farmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available with select Farmers branded policies. Subject to terms and conditions. Underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges, Farmers New World Life Insurance Company, or affiliate.
Hey, nice party.
Yeah, what's new with you?
Did you know blue whales in Hawaii can be heard off the coast of California?
What?
And time travel to the future may actually be possible.
How is that?
I discovered it on CuriosityStream.
I'm listening.
You can stream thousands of shows on nature, history, science, and so much more.
Cool.
And their annual plans are 25% off, just $1.25 a month.
Now I want to go back in time. Sign up for that deal.
Sign up now at CuriosityStream.com.
CuriosityStream.com.
That's it, CuriosityStream.com.
Man, there are a lot of podcasts out there.
Definitely. I mean, there's 3 million shows, 50 million episodes, and more every day.
I mean, who has the time to figure out which ones are the best podcasts?
We do. That's who. What's up, guys? I am Alicia Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
And we are your hosts of Pod Sauce, a podcast discovery show.
Look at us as your podcast concierge.
We do all the work for you. We listen to the shows, review them,
pick the best episodes, and interview the hosts.
Pod Sauce. Let us help you find your next binge. Tell them where to go, Dax.
Go to podsauce.com.